Hello, everyone, and welcome. Wonderful to have you online. I am coming live from Paris, and I'm very, very excited to have Maurice with us. He's one of the most esteemed professionals in the space, and I've got a lot to share with you in terms of where we're going and how we're going to be dealing with this. Maurice, wonderful to have you here. Deeply appreciate, I'm coming from Paris, you're coming from Joburg, and in 48 hours, I'll be in Joburg and you'll be in Austria, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks so much, Scott. And thanks to the audience for joining us today.
Awesome. So let me rock and roll. I got a couple of slides that I want to share with people, and then let's see. And you gotta love the lighting here in Paris. This is as good as it gets. So you're gonna have to bear with me. But let's get these slides up. I just want to get a bit of an intro going first. So what are we dealing with tonight? It's fractionalization, the future of investing with tech. And I want to just ask a question. So let's get everyone in the room. And what is fractionalization? Do you have any idea? Type it in the chat box. Let us know. I know that Shane's also asked people where you're from in the world. Always fascinating for us. I know Maurice also asked where are people coming from. We tend to have people from all over the world. So fascinating to see where people are in the world. But yeah, what is your take on fractionalization? What is it? Is it a word you understand? Is it a word that makes sense to you? So I just want to see here if anything comes through in the chat group. Got a couple of people saying no idea. We've got Johannesburg. We've got Free State. We've got Denver. So I'm going to take you out of your misery. And it's a portion of an asset. That's right, Abdul. Splitting money against asset classes. We've got Mossel Bay. So we got different conversations going on here, but it's all good. So I found a great article that I recommend reading. And maybe, Shane, if you could chuck it in the chat box for everyone. But it basically is, what is asset fractionalization? It's the concept of splitting up ownership of something so that many people can receive benefits from it in proportion to the amount they own. It's a traditional concept which already exists today, as we discuss later. But why do people increasingly associate fractionalization with digital assets recorded as tokens on blockchain, and what opportunities are created? So as I said to you, there's an entire article in terms of this article here that Shane can share with everyone. Let me just go to it quickly. So it's this one here. And it's really interesting because it talks about that. It talks about how you can fractionalize shares, REITs, which are real estate investment trusts, ETFs, mutual funds, and basically what's new, private markets, etc. However, tonight we are going to be going into that. And so I just want to share with you a bit of a story. So I went to Singularity University in 2015. I'm really interested in Maurice sharing his story. And we believe, wholeheartedly that effectively assets are going to go on the blockchain. And whether you call it cryptocurrency, whether you call it tokenization, I actually don't really care what you call it technology coming into the space. You are going to have assets on the blockchain. And ideally, they're going to be real world assets with intrinsic value. And so we actually went out and we launched an ICO, and that was in 2017. And the whole idea at the time was to make it a security token. And I know I'm chucking out a whole bunch of terms, which we're going to talk about tonight, which meant that it was backed by tangible real estate. It was backed by something like what you've got behind me here. Unfortunately, at the time, the laws did not allow it. And so, we built out the entire infrastructure. Migrate was one of the first platforms in the world to be on the blockchain, first real estate platforms in the world to be on the blockchain in 2016. And my business partner, Jaco Moritz, who's actually online tonight, actually designed this mind map as far back as 2015, 2016, and then pretty much put this ecosystem together. And this is what we started trying to build in terms of, what is it now? It's nearly 8 years ago. However, one of the things that I found really interesting, and one of the parts that I'm so excited about tonight, is that the technology is there. In fact, the technology has been there for 6, 7, 8, possibly even 10 years. The know-how is there, but the greatest gap in this entire equation is the legalities, is the regulation. And so even though we had the full understanding of how to do it, what tripped us up in 2017 was at the final hour, we weren't allowed to go with a security token, and we had to go with a utility token, which is effectively gamification, and it doesn't allow you to own real world assets. And that's when I got so excited. I first met Maurice back in 2009, 2010. I needed legal help in those days. I was David. I was taking on a Goliath in a legal battle. And I was recommended to Maurice, and he was incredibly good. He was amazing. And he's one of the senior managing partner at Schindler's, and this is literally on their website. And they've been going 25 years, so they're a full suite legal firm. But what was really interesting is a mutual friend of ours reached out to me, I don't know, about 2 or 3 months ago and said, hey, look, you should chat to Maurice. He's got completely into this whole blockchain, tokenization, Web3 space. And so Maurice and I connected, and I wanted to read you just a little bit about this. And actually, you can go literally to Schindler's website. Now, Maurice, if you don't mind bearing with me, because I know it's quite a long piece here, but I do think it gives great context into who you are and what your experience is. So I know no one ever likes it when they have their bio read, but if you don't mind, just bear with me for 2 seconds. But Maurice is a highly respected attorney, established himself as a leading expert in the field of blockchain law. With over 25 years experience in commercial law and litigation, he has combined his legal expertise with his passion for technology to become a trailblazer in the blockchain industry. In 2017, Maurice founded the first blockchain department in South Africa, which quickly became a go-to destination for clients seeking legal solutions for blockchain needs. His unique approach encompasses both the legal and technology aspects of blockchain, providing clients with comprehensive advice on developing tokens, wallets, exchanges, NFTs, and other blockchain-related matters. Maurice's groundbreaking work in the field of blockchain law includes the development of the I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Kawi token, the world's first turnkey ICO by a law firm. He specializes in what he calls Crypto 3.0, the intersection of technology and law, which involves tokenization of real-world assets, NFTs that transfer legal rights, security, utility token offerings, and fractionalization of property using NFT or fungible tokens. With his team of experts, Maurice can offer comprehensive assistance to clients with all aspects of their technology requirements, which is a world first for a law firm. As a leading expert in the field of blockchain law, Maurice can help clients navigate the emerging tax and regulatory landscape for blockchain enterprises. He has a deep understanding of the legal and regulatory challenges that blockchain enterprises face and can provide valuable advice on compliance with regulation, including anti-money laundering and know your customer requirements. Additionally, Maurice stays up to date on the latest regulatory developments in the blockchain industry, ensuring that his clients receive the most current and accurate legal advice. And then goes on to say that he's an accomplished speaker and spoken in many different parts around the world. Through his contribution to the blockchain industry, Maurice has played a crucial role in advancing the legal framework for emerging technologies, making him a true pioneer in the field of blockchain law. And so why I got so excited when Maurice spoke and I spoke was that, and I'm going to ask him to tell us his journey just now of how he got into this on top of law. But what has been our Achilles heel all along, doesn't matter what country you deal with, every single place in the world that I've dealt with so far, everyone's an expert in the space until you get to the legal side, until you get to the regulatory side. And that's where, for me, Maurice fills a piece of the puzzle that is the most important piece. And I'm sure that if Jaco was here, he would acknowledge what I'm saying, because that's the piece we haven't been able to do. The last thing I wanted to share before I hand over to Maurice is he shared with me something which is coming. So that's their website if you want to go and check them out. But that's the full legal firm. What I think is really interesting, and I got Maurice's permission to share this because it's not live yet, but this is the schindlersx.io, which is the digital asset marketplace. And ultimately, there's going to be tokenized listings on here. You've got tokenized reality. But what I think is really interesting is that you've got the full breakdown of everything. And I want to know more about this integrity officer as well, which I think is brilliant. I know what it's about, but I want you to talk about it in terms of that process. So without further ado, I think I've given enough of an introduction. I've shared with you the marketplace that's going. I can't share that page yet because it's not live, as I said, and Maurice asked me not to share it. So what are we doing? We've been speaking a lot about Wealth 5.0 for many, many years now. You know, for us, Wealth 5.0 is impact. It's about purpose and sustainability, solving the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. It's about creativity and value creation. It's about high touch, collaborative, smart investing. It's about high tech. So everything we're talking about tonight, blockchain, exponential technology, big data, AI. And finally, it's about digital, solving big problems in terms of where the world is going. And when we talk about fractionalization tonight, let's get tangible as well. At the end of the day, most people want to get, globally diversified passive income. That's the goal they want. And how do you do it? Well, you diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. Most people don't have the time, they don't have the money, and they don't have the knowledge. But with fractionalization, it truly becomes, open to everybody in terms of that process. And once Maurice is done, I'm going to share with you a digital program that we've put together where it will literally teach you the top 5 countries to invest, the top 5 currencies to invest, the top 15 assets to invest, how to find the right partners and avoid 80% of the mistakes. How do you build a plan, a wealth plan? And finally, how do you bring it all together? Literally talking about what we're talking about with smart investing, fractionalization, tokenization, etc. And so without further ado, I want to get started on the future of investing using tech. There's a disclaimer, again, from our side and from Maurice's side. We're sharing our information tonight. It's not, we're not providing advice. We are just sharing our opinions in terms of where the world is going, and most importantly, where technology is changing the space of investing. And so without further ado, I want to stop now. And Maurice, the first question I've got for you, tell us a little bit about your journey, because it's very unusual to meet a lawyer that says, hey, I see where the future's coming. I understand technology, and let's embrace it and not fight it. So tell us how you've taken this journey to get to where you are.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, as you said, I think it was 2015, you attended Singularity. I attended Singularity University in 2019, and after that, I attended the exec program. I got inspired. So for those of you who don't know about Singularity University, they're based in the United States. They have conferences around the world. And what they do is they really give you a deep dive into the impact of power of exponential technology. In 2019, we heard about AI, but we didn't even contemplate anything close to a ChatGPT type of AI system. So, I mean, what Singularity University said would happen in 2019, what had been predicted, in fact, in my mind, the tech that we're seeing today in the AI field is far surpassed what we all imagined back then. But I was there as a commercial attorney, having practiced for just over 20 years. And I started really contemplating where would law be going in the context of exponential technology and the future of work. And through that, I met some colleagues. I started to discuss the potential, certain possibilities and certain tech that could assist in the legal field. And I came up with a concept soon after that conference called Dispute It, which isn't really relevant for today's purposes. But then we had lockdown. And during lockdown, in fact, the week before lockdown took place, the day after our President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the lockdown, I got on the phone and I contacted the CEO of IQ Business, Adam Craker, and we heeded the call of President Ramaphosa, who said, if there are businesses out there who can assist businesses in distress, please do so. And we put together an organization called Cobra that stands for COVID Business Rescue Assistance. It is, to date, South Africa's largest pro bono initiative. We put together over 100 corporate partners to assist businesses in distress. The partners included Microsoft, Aon, Elysium, and many, many more. And over those 2 years, we assisted over 600 companies. But during that journey, I was getting steeped in the tech side of things. I was looking at blockchain. We were looking at metaverses. We were looking at all these emerging technologies. And we had two very, very interesting approaches. The first was Lily's Leaf Museum in Rivonia, where the Rivonia trialists were arrested, Nelson Mandela. The trustees approached us, and it being lockdown, they asked whether there was anything we could do to assist. Obviously, there's their doors were closed. They had no income. The Department of Public Works had stopped financing because a forensic audit was required with the previous CEO. And they came to us and they said, can you help? And we had the business analysts who did a business review, and naturally they came back and they said, it's not possible, there's nothing we can do. And I decided, together with the team at Schindler's, to take a very, very different approach. And we decided to look at blockchain tech and its potential in actually assisting a museum or business such as Lily's Leaf. And what we did is we went into the archives, we got a scanning team, and we started scanning certain of the artifacts. And the most notable artifact was Nelson Mandela's warrant of arrest. And we created an NFT, not of the warrant of arrest, but we didn't actually sell the real world object. We put it on auction and we raised 130,000 USD for Lily's Leaf, and we were able to actually open the doors of Lily's Leaf Museum. Well, not open the doors. In fact, we were able to open the doors and get security at the doors. There was vandalism, there was flooding in the archives. We got pumps, we drained the archives, and we literally saved Lily's Leaf Museum. And that's where we started seeing that, an alternative approach, a tech approach to these problems can actually bear fruit. And the second interesting approach was the King of the Ndebele's approached us, the King of the Ndebele nation in South Africa. He said, look, you're helping businesses, can you help my people? And again, we decided to look at this, and it was one hell of a tall order, but we decided to tackle it. And what we did there is we put together on his behalf a token. We refer to it as a gifting token. That was the world's first ICO by a law firm. We put together the tech, and we obviously did all the legal stuff around the tech. And we launched the Cowrie as a gifting token to raise funds. And we also assisted in other initiatives. We opened up a knowledge center, a legal type clinic. But what got me really thinking around the tokenization of real estate is the King has 350,000 hectares of land that is owned by certain trusts. Now that land is in those trusts. It's a legacy of the past, because when 94 came along, we had the kingdoms and they had to be dealt with in a certain way, and there was this land. It was transferred into the trusts, which is all good and well, but the problem is the occupants of the land cannot do anything with the land insofar as raising capital, leveraging an asset. So whilst they can use the land, they can't use it to raise the necessary capital, for instance, to buy equipment, to build a business. So what we realized then is that if we could find a legal mechanism to tokenize that land, we would be able to theoretically create what we refer to as a layer 2 deeds office, which is outside of the deeds office but operates a layer above the deeds office. And if we were to speak to the banks and the banks were to agree, particularly their credit, to, let's say, a pledge of a token that embodies the property rights, then they could actually use that token as leverage to raise the capital. And that's when we really started thinking about this and getting into it. And then we had the NFT craze, the NFT craze, those silly NFTs that went for millions and now are valueless. That was one thing. But in that craze, we realized, we've got something here, and we started looking at regulation. We started working on legal IP to see what can and cannot be done. And what I refer to as Web 3.0, rather Crypto 3.0. So Crypto 1 is Bitcoin. Crypto 2, in my mind, is the altcoins and those NFTs that most people lost out on. And Crypto 3.0 is where the law really has to plug in, and it's the convergence of tech and law. You have techies out there, and they know what they want, they know what they want to do, they just don't know how to do it. So we've actually come across quite a few at Schindler's clients who've started real world asset type exchanges or initiatives, but what they say isn't what actually happens under the hood. So they'll say that you have a right to, let's say, an energy drink, as one example, and there's a raise for an energy drink that a client of mine did an ICO for beginning of last year, but there was no legal connection. So whilst it looked like an STO, no one actually had legal rights. They couldn't sue. There were no rights and obligations. So there's very little they could do. And what they'd have to rely on would be the trust of the promoter of the token. Whereas what we've done is we're now working alongside these clients to actually regularize the situation, because whilst they do have these platforms, you'll find that these platforms are in breach of most financial acts. When I say most, including the Banks Act, we're dealing with a gold portal at the moment where they are almost certainly in breach of the Banks Act, and we're regularizing it. But these are techies who have absolutely no idea how to do it. And Scott, it's not easy. A lot of, well, I'd say 99% of people think that crypto, now that it's regulated in South Africa, regulation applies to the crypto, and that's the be all and the end all. It's actually not the crypto regulation that is the problem. That's quite easy. I mean, that's easy to deal with. It's in FICA, it's phase. And what's really being regulated there are cryptocurrencies, not real world assets. And just to mention a distinction, and I think it's an important distinction up front between cryptocurrencies and real world assets. Cryptocurrencies are a store of value. So if you lose the password to your wallet and you have cryptocurrencies in there, the crypto is gone. We've all heard those horror stories of how people lose crypto and how it gets stolen. That's where crypto is a store of value. What we're doing is we are utilizing crypto as a representation of value. So if we were to tokenize a security, a debt instrument, whatever it is, and the person were to lose their password to their wallet, we'd actually be able to replace those tokens because it's a representation of value. So we'll be able to deal with the tokens, do a forensic analysis to make sure that the passwords have been lost, that the tokens are in the wallet, that the person says they're in. Once we've done that analysis, we can actually make that replacement. So crypto regulation, FSCA, just think cryptocurrency, so much so that our regulators have actually expressly excluded NFTs from the definition of crypto asset in phase. Where the real complexity arises, and this is where most of the legwork came in from a legal perspective, is actually in terms of our security laws. And I think that's the problem in most jurisdictions around the world. And this is where it was, I refer to it as a treasure hunt, and a treasure hunt in a maze, where you think you answer something, you go down a particular path, and then you hit a dead end. I'll give you an example. If we look at the regulations of our Companies Act, you can quite easily tokenize shares in a public company and put them on chain and literally operate as the JSE would. Now, the regulation allows for that, but then one turns to the Financial Markets Act and one sees that if one were to do that, it would squarely fall within the definition of security in terms of the Act, and you'd have to register as a stock exchange to actually get that right. So that's what I mean by hitting a dead end. Then you look at the Financial Markets Act and you look at the definition of securities there, and we got excited because we saw that bonds and debentures were specifically defined as bonds and debentures and public companies in terms of the Financial Markets Act. So we thought, yay, well, here goes. We can now tokenize bonds and debentures and private companies because they're excluded from the definition. But then you look at another act, and that's the Financial Sector Regulations Act. And then there, you actually have to get licensed to be able to do it. So, having gone down that road, we have found legal structures that we're now implementing in the real world asset space. We not only do we have Schindler's X, but we consult with exchanges and we work alongside them. And we've had some exchanges actually start their listings pretty recently. One of them is Libex. It's LIBEX. They're a client of ours. We don't have any interest in them, but you'll see if you go to their website, the Libex Quota website, they've actually launched the Bryanston development on their website. And we've done that through these structures, which we can get into in more detail. But that's been my journey. My journey has really been around the convergence of tech and law. And I've been on the global stage around the world. And, the thrust of the message I'm trying to get across is that attorneys have to rise up, because without attorneys rising up and without attorneys understanding the tech and understanding the law and finding these creative solutions, the techies won't be able to get to where they want to be. And it'll be up to us lawyers to actually facilitate that. And that's the space that we're now occupying.
So interesting you say that, because taking your analogy of crypto 1, crypto 2, let's say we got as far as crypto 2. Those slides I shared with you, this was us in where's it gone now? There. Literally this, we launched this in 2017. This was the exchange, etc. But it's so interesting because exactly as you say, without the assistance of the legal, and don't get me wrong, we spent a fortune on legal, like between American lawyers and European lawyers and everyone in between. And one would tell you, and I love what you said, a treasure hunt and dead ends, because that's exactly what it was. Pay us all this money and we'd go on our treasure hunt, and then we'd get to a dead end, and we just went round and round in circles. So I really buy into what you're saying with crypto 3.0 and the legal fraternity stepping up and actually giving us guidance versus us guys trying to figure it out the other way around, because it just doesn't work. And I know from my own experience. Let's run through some questions here that we've got prepared, Maurice, which I think are, the different members of the community have put them together, etc. And I think this is a great way to kind of get some scope in terms of where the world is going and how it's changing, etc. In terms of some real world. So if I look here, let's just run through some questions. And what I'll do is I'll put the question up and then I'll stop sharing so that people can actually see you. So how's the landscape of real estate tokenization evolved over the past few years, particularly in relation to other forms of asset tokenization?
Yeah, well, I mean, you use the word evolved there. So it's currently having its genesis. It's yet to start evolving. You'll find that most players in the real world asset space are just starting off. We engage quite a bit with Binance Global. We've met with the Avalanche chain. They're based in New York. So we're working with these guys in the space. Those who are in the know. And I'll take Binance as an example. The two guys that we're dealing with Binance Global, the ones in Dubai, the other ones in Silicon Valley, they say that Schindler's X and where we are at is pretty much as advanced as one gets. One does get, there have been tokenizations, but very much in the security token type environment, so the stock exchange type environment, where you have a blockchain really to be able to have transparency in relation to the transactions and to have the transactions as immutable. But it's only now that one's really seeing real estate transactions emerging. As I said, we now have the Bryanston development that Libex has just launched, and they got another 4 in the pipeline. Yeah, other assets we've tokenized gold we acted for Moment, they're an NFT exchange, and Scoin, they're the gold retailers in South Africa. And they took a 20 million Rand gold coin set and asked us to fractionalize that and tokenize that. That was pretty simple because it didn't involve a security. What we did there is we took it as an asset and we fractionalized direct ownership in the asset. We had to create a new legal instrument. We called it a NAST. It stands for NFT Asset Sales Transaction Instrument. That agreement is actually a legacy signed agreement, but it's embedded in the metadata and in each NFT. And the complexity is really, how does one bind downstream purchases if they're not going to be signing the agreements? Now that's easy. Now with real estate, one doesn't only have the deeds office to contend with, the deeds registry act. One also has to deal with tax, transfer duty. There are a whole host of issues that arise which don't arise with most assets. It's very easy to take art, fractionalize it, or any commodity. So long as, interestingly enough, in the United States, as an example, of the Howey test, and when it comes to the tokenization of an asset, it becomes a security if it involves the effort of others. If you take a straight commodity and you tokenize it, it's not that. It's a pure commodity that's not a security. So it's evolving, but it's only recently evolving because it's only recently kicked off and it's only now becoming mainstream. And I think the next evolution is going to be people seeing how it works, being accustomed to the environment. We're trying to make the environment as user-friendly as possible. We're doing it as an Amazon type environment where you can just check out as an Amazon, nothing complex. You don't need to connect a MetaMask wallet to purchase the tokens. But that in effect is where we're at. It's, as I said, it's an evolution, but it's only an evolution that's commencing now.
So let's talk in simple world terms. So someone asked a question here and said, our medical buildings, have we not been fractionalizing them? And to many extent we have. We've taken a $10 million building and we've allowed 1,000 people to participate, from as little as $10 a piece. And so, under the essence of fractionalization, I would say we have already done that. But the part that intrigues me with what you're doing and now taking into account blockchain is, and this is the part that I've never been able to join the dots, is that it's all good and well to fractionalize the asset and even to put it on the blockchain, but the deeds office is still in the old world, and so you still need to have, traditional money and ultimately you need to buy the asset from the seller. And technically most people set up an SPV, special purpose vehicle, and then they own the asset through the deeds office, etc. How do you see this changing with what I'm going to call new world tech and then old world regulatory environment? Because I don't see deeds offices other than possibly Dubai changing very quickly,
Yeah, and you got to operate within the current regulatory environment and also the current system. So the deeds office is antiquated. It's something that we got to work with our tech, but as with the regulation, it's problematic. And that's why we call it a layer 2 deeds office that we're creating. So we're not only in the business of fractionalizing. What we want to achieve is to take, if there are any conveyancing attorneys on this call, my apologies, but really to take the attorneys out of the transfer process. I've said this for a while now, that in my mind, it's unconscionable that you pay 50,000 rands to lawyers in circumstances where the tech's there to allow for a transfer on your phone, MetaMask to MetaMask. So we've created a system where the actual token is your title deed, and that operates as a layer above the deeds office, and it's quite technical from a legal point of view, but it involves actual rights that are embedded in the token, and you can transfer those rights as a layer above it. When it comes to the fractionalization, you're going to have to create an SPV, but we've created the SPV structure that we've created with our structured finance team is such that there's an actual flow through of rights to the token holder. So they are owners directly of the particular underlying instrument that governs the asset. When it comes to real world asset tokenization, Scott, it doesn't necessarily, when it comes to real estate, it doesn't necessarily have to involve the token holders owning a stake in the property. We're working with developers in Northern Natal, and what we're doing there is we're actually creating debt instruments that pay on flips. So what the guys are doing is they're coming in, the token holders invest through the SPV structure, they get their tokens, and they, after 3 years, they flip the property, and hopefully the property will have appreciated considerably. And what we do is we airdrop the proceeds to the token holders. The distinction, I think the main distinction between what you guys have been doing in the fractionalization space and what we're achieving is we are creating a secondary market. Once you buy a token which represents rights in a property, that token can be transferred on your wallet, MetaMask to MetaMask. You don't even need it on the blockchain. Sorry, you don't even need it on an exchange. If I always say what we want to achieve is the possibility of actually going all in on a poker game with your tokens and be able to transfer them there and there if you lose your hand. So you can literally lose your house at a poker game, whereas with the current system you wouldn't be able to. So that's the one benefit, is being able to take it completely outside of the exchange environment. Another benefit is you're not limited to one exchange. You can put the token on any exchange around the world. You can put it on multiple exchanges, which obviously enhances liquidity.
Wow. Tommy, we've sort of touched on this next question, but I just want to ask it in case there's anything that we've missed out on here. And it's interesting because you've brought up a number of regulations already. But I don't know if you've answered it to some extent already, but what are the primary regulatory challenges faced by companies and individuals looking to tokenize real estate assets in 2023? And I do like the fact that you are not just looking at it from a South African perspective, but from a global perspective with other markets intact as well.
I think, if you were to go to the United States, I think that the primary challenge there is that the legal position is as opaque as it can possibly get. You never know what the SEC is going to do, and you don't know what approach they're going to adopt. So that's a massive, massive challenge there. In South Africa, fortunately and fortuitously, I guess, we actually very, very liberal, the gap we found finds us in quite a liberal space, in the sense, regulatory space, in the sense that one can tokenize. We use limited partnerships as a structure, and those partnership interests can be traded. In South Africa, that's permissible and it's not regarded as a security. In the United States, there's a 1984 decision where the court has pronounced on the question of whether such an interest is a security, and it is. So it depends on the jurisdiction as to where the hurdles are. But the one thing I can tell you is that it's not the crypto regulation that is a problem in real world assets tokenization. It is the security laws that one must look at.
And tell me, in terms of the next question here, because I like where we're going with this. And, if you take America, EU, Asia, what are the different approaches? And I suppose what I would ask, two sides to this question: what are the implications for international investors, but also where are the friendly spots to be looking at?
At the moment, I guess the guys who are registering exchanges, we're seeing a lot of activity in Luxembourg, but now particularly in Dubai. In fact, they've just issued several real world asset licenses in Dubai. And in fact, that's a jurisdiction that we now seriously considering. I had the details here. I think, yeah, so yeah, you'll see Toka was the first to actually get the regulatory authority from in the UAE. And I'll read here, it signifies global market, it says, amongst the first firms to be granted borrowers operating license for virtual asset broker, dealer, and exchange. So those are the environments the regulatory environments that people are going to, like the Luxembourgs, Switzerland, obviously the offshore, certain offshore havens. But when it comes to the actual exchanges, I'd say, well, we're looking at Dubai at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. Funny enough, we were just talking about Luxembourg literally yesterday, because as I said, I'm actually in Europe. And one of the challenges we've got is that our digital wallet provider is a European-based platform. And because we were originally English-based and the whole Brexit thing, now they're not under the FCA anymore. And it gets so flippin' complicated, So now we're looking at Luxembourg because we've got to be European-based, for how the
structure. What complicates matters even further, Scott, is the fact that you don't even, it's not even where your exchange is domiciled. That's the issue. It's, we've seen it with Binance now. It's whether you're marketing, let's say in the United States. So if you actively market in the United States and the exchange is domiciled elsewhere, it's still a contravention of their rules. You're going to be very, very careful where you market as opposed to where you register the exchange.
Yeah. No, look, that's been one of our challenges. We've been doing this for more than 10 years now, and that's exactly it. If you're in Australia marketing to an Australian, then you've got to deal with ASIC. It doesn't really matter where your investment is. So I hear you loud and clear. Tell me, this one here is really interesting because the argument I get all the time, and I'd love to know your argument to this, is that can you provide specific examples tokenization has democratized access to real estate investment opportunities for individuals? And I'm going to extend on that because the one question I get asked all the time, well, what's the difference between this and a REIT, a real estate investment trust? They already exist. They've taken lots of assets. They've fractionalized them on the stock exchange. What's the difference? Why has this made it any different?
I think there's a big difference, and that is your listing fees of a REIT are prohibitive to most people want to raise funding. So those are really the REITs are for the big boys. The democratization takes place, I guess, at two levels. One is accessibility for the investor. So it's a lot easier for the investor, particularly the Gen Zs, who understand crypto, to invest. They understand it, and they'll, as I said, you can be on multiple exchanges. They can be centralized exchanges or decentralized exchanges, but it provides accessibility to those users. Where it also democratizes is in relation to the ability to actually raise funding. I put it to you, Scott, have you ever heard of a REIT that raises funds for a small development in Bryanston? It's incomprehensible, and I think that's never been heard of. Whereas now a developer can put together a decent white paper, a prospectus, come to the likes of us or other real world asset exchanges, work through the process, and then do a listing at the fraction of the cost of a REIT or anything listed on the stock exchange. And interestingly enough, I make mention of the Gen Zs. When we launched Cowrie, it took one influencer and one jurisdiction to get up to $250,000 in purchases of tokens every 24 hours. And we did it just by targeting the crypto Nigerian market with a Nigerian influencer. Now, that's something that you wouldn't be able to do with the REIT. You know, how do you target Nigeria to raise money for a Bryanston development? It's just, it's not heard of. Whereas now, you go to the influencers, you pay the influencer $2,000 and you start getting those trades. It's very, very different. The democratization is massive in my mind, because it gives the Gen Zs, gives everybody access to property investments that, you know, only a limited few had access to up till now.
I think also, you know, it's an interesting thing for me, and this is just making it easier and easier. You know, one of the things we've dreamed about, and I've always called it smart investing. You know, you've got a smart iPhone, you got a smart watch, you got, you know, why should we not use technology to invest? Forget about all these fancy terms, just literally technology to invest. And my point being is that most investors, the middle class, the professionals, everyone have been indoctrinated that to buy a house or an apartment is the only way to own real estate. And yet the top 1% make all of their money, and it's not in residential real estate. It's in commercial real estate. It's in much better quality assets that traditionally have only been the domain of the institutions. And again, back to REITs. Whereas now you and I and the Gen Z and everyone in between can actually participate and get access to real, you know, value and quite frankly, you know, far better returns at far safer outcomes than they can out of buying houses, you know, and that's something that for me, from a democratization perspective, is something that really opened my eyes in 2014, because when we did our first medical building, we needed $6 million in cash. And I didn't have $6 million, but by getting a number of other investors together, I could participate in that deal. And I just realized, like, I was getting a far better return with a lot less hassle than my residential houses that were far lower return with a lot more hassle. And it was like, this is a no-brainer, you know. So what for me, the democratization comes in is just getting access to better quality assets that people never even thought were possible in the past, you know.
Sure, but it's also access to funding. You know, you got to see it. You got to see it in both perspectives. It's the investor, and it's also the project owner. So, you know, if you're driving down Bryanston Drive and you come across a brilliant investment in your mind, traditionally, what you'd have to do is phone your bank manager, make an application, and jump through hoops to get that funding. And more often than not, you won't get the loan to value that you'd want. Whereas now, what this allows for is the ability to raise funds outside of that, where you do not have to approach a bank. And in fact, you, in a sense, control the debtor-creditor relationship, because you decide what the terms will be in governing that would govern that relationship, the debtor-creditor relationship. So if you want to raise funds, and you know, banks invariably, when it comes to, you know, commercial transactions, you'll find that they're covenants, a whole host of covenants in their agreements. Now, if you don't want covenants, you decide on the terms. You obviously got to make it credible and appealing, and you've got to give comfort to the investors. You can, if you overcome that with the terms of the various agreements that govern the relationship, then you have access. And let me say this to you, there's not one agreement that we've drafted for clients of ours or implemented that have such onerous terms, such as the covenants. What we do is we're there there is quite a high degree of oversight on our part. So if you come to us and you want to list on our exchange, obviously you get vetted and there's a due diligence process. Let's say you do have that Bryanston development and you come along, we would ask you to prepare the white paper, setting out the financials and making out a case as to why it's a good investment. And then we would, as Schindler's, audit everything. We would prepare an audit report that would actually go on the site. We would confirm in the audit report that everything that the project owner says is in fact what it purports to be. If they say that the land can be transferred, doesn't have, there are no endorsements or servitudes, that kind of stuff, we check that out. And once there's a successful raise, we will then, through the structures, also oversee the performance by the project owner. So in other words, if there's an ROI and there's quarterly payments to be made to the investors, we, in terms of the underlying agreements, we will ensure that that takes place. And if there is a default, we'll jump in and take steps, legal steps, to actually enforce that, to give the investor that extra degree of oversight and enforcement, which is something you don't see at the JSE. You know, if you take Steinhoff, you don't see the JSE actually getting involved and recovering funds on behalf of the investors. Whereas, you know, with these structures properly put together, and with the involvement of a professional service company such as Schindler's, we're now in a position to do that.
Yeah, I must admit that makes a lot of sense, you know, because we've had deals where the sponsor doesn't perform, and, you know, as much as you do due diligence, it happens. You know, if you invest in deals for a long enough time, not every deal is going to go according to plan. And it's quite interesting with your legal law firm backing, you know, that you can then go and actually try and resolve it. So I think that should give investors a lot of comfort in terms of that process. I just wanted to add one extra comment that I think is relevant to what you said. And it's so interesting dealing with, you know, in America, they call them sponsors. Around the world, they call them partners. It doesn't matter, different names. But partners really like it. What they don't want to have to deal with is 1,000 investors. Like, that's what they've got no interest in dealing with. But what they love is actually being able to spread the risk, to be able to go out and get investors, many investors from around the world, because it's actually, as you've said, it's a hell of a lot easier than dealing with the bank. And if they can build up a good track record with a group of investors that follow them, which, by the way, most good developers around the world have done for decades, where they've had these big databases that they can sell off their developments to their database. It's the same principle. They love that versus having to be stuck, you know, tied to their bank or to, you know, REIT, etc. So I just want to back you up, because that's certainly been my experience in the last 10 years. However, the blockage for them is they don't want to have to deal with 1,000 investors. So, you know, again, that exchange provides that conduit.
It does. Just to explain to the audience how it actually works. You buy the token. For those of you who are not blockchain savvy, there's the concept of airdrops. And what one does is one airdrops the return on investment, dividend payments, by you send it to all the wallets out there on the blockchain that hold the initial investment token. So it actually goes and it finds those wallets, not knowing who the individual is behind the wallet, and pays that out, which obviously is a major issue when it comes to compliance, and in South Africa when it comes to exchange control. And the way we've overcome that is we've created a stable coin, 1 rand for 1 rand, and offshore $1 for $1, where we distribute the return on investment to whoever's out there. So let's say somebody transferred it on their MetaMask wallet to a triad in China. Now the triad in China is sitting there. Now, ordinarily, if we had sent just USD to those wallets, we would have breached the exchange control, and there would be compliance issues. So we'd get into a hell of a lot of trouble. Whereas now, with the airdrop of our stablecoin, the only way you can cash it in is by going onto our site and converting it either to USDT, when you'll get the USDT, but within South Africa, we'll have KYC due, and we can obviously also pay in rands, in fiat. So that was a major stumbling block that we overcame. And yeah, again, that facilitates the secondary trades outside of exchanges, and the potential to actually pay dividend returns without actually having to go to your exchange and see where the returns are there. They'll just be in your wallet. You wake up one day and you'll find that the ROI will be there in that stable coin, but then you've got to cash it in, and you've got to do that through us.
Tell me quickly, you've kind of alluded to this, and just tell me if I'm understanding it myself. How are property rights, title transfers, and other traditional real estate processes effective or streamlined by tokenization? And what I really heard you say was that it effectively is cutting out the lawyers, it's cutting out the conveyancers, etc. in terms of that process. You did talk about it quite a lot earlier. Is there anything that we haven't covered yet with regards to streamlining this process?
Well, let me use an example. Waterfall in Midrand, because what I like about Waterfall is they really brought back the 99-year lease concept as a purchase. You'll never hear anybody saying that they entered into a lease as a tenant when it came to actually paying millions for their property. But what's happened is a lease gets registered, a 99-year lease gets registered in the deeds office. Now, Waterfall is a classic example of where rights can be tokenized, and they ought to be tokenized, and the transfer of those rights would take place through an exchange through your MetaMask wallet. But to allow for that transfer, Waterfall requires that you pay a certain percent to the homeowners association every time there's a transfer. There's estate agents involved. We can actually build that into the smart contract. So the only way somebody can transfer property is by making sure that, by including that 3%, and that 3% will get paid directly to the homeowners association, even the estate agent. So imagine being able to go to a show day at Waterfall, seeing a house that you like, and being able to purchase immediately there and there. That is what we're trying to achieve, and I think that is what we've achieved. There are certain stumbling blocks when it comes to it not being instant. There has to be a rates clearance. Somebody's got to monitor that. You got to get those clearances in place. One day, hopefully, all that will be automated by way of a smart contract. If a smart contract had access to SARS, and we could somehow see what the outstanding balance was on a property, if there is an outstanding balance, or if they raise transfer duty, the transfer duty could be paid directly to SARS as part and parcel of the transaction at the show day. When it comes to 99-year leases, there isn't any transfer duty, so you don't have that problem. But I think you get the gist of it. The attorneys are completely cut out. Everybody else remains. And one day, when the blockchain has access to these data sources, everybody will get paid at the same time in one shot, and that will be your house being transferred. So that's a damn good example. If we were given a development such as Waterfall, we would strongly suggest that they move forward with the times.
It's amazing, and it's interesting because the next question is a great question, because it sounds so good. I mean, it literally does. I must admit, I think I go through my head, like, if someone sells their house, how would they move out the same day? But I mean, it's fantastic in terms of what you just said. But what are the risks? What are the risks in terms of, both for the issuers and for the investors in the current regulatory environment? How do you see, what's the downside for people?
Look, if the operator is a genuine operator, the risks are right down there. I think what people find, rogue operators out there and scams. There's a massive risk there. Make sure that you know who you're buying from. Have a look at who the team is. If you find that there's a website where you can invest in real estate, but you don't know who the team is, and you don't even know where they're domiciled, just steer far away from that investment. The normal risks associated with crypto do not apply when it comes to real world asset tokenization, because the tokens are a representation of value. If you lose the tokens, they can be replaced. We're going a step further, and really to appeal to the traditional investor, we're saying to the traditional investor, if you come along and you want an actual legacy piece of paper that sets out your rights, you burn the token and Schindler's will give you that piece of paper, and then you have that. We can go traditional if you want, and if you decide later that you actually want the token because you want to transfer it, well, then we can remint the token, give you a token that represents that piece of paper, and we hold that piece of paper on file. So the way to see it is, it's not crypto. It's a means to actually trade paper, but the paper is on the blockchain in the form of, let's say, a PDF.
That's right.
I dealt with quite a few litigation matters where buildings were literally not hijacked in the occupation sense, but hijacked in the sense that they were stolen. that people forged all the documents, changed companies, and they actually stole those buildings, and you'd have to go to court to set that aside as a fraud. In this context, it'll be very, very difficult to achieve that. And if an issue did arise, it wouldn't be a matter of going to court, it'd be a matter of coming to Schindler's to rectify the situation.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that doesn't just happen in South Africa. We had a client that happened to in Australia as well. So, and
Oh, really?
everyone says Australia is one of the most litigious places in the world, you know, and with increasing prevalence of DeFi platforms and smart contracts, how are these integrated with real estate tokenization to ensure compliance with existing regulations?
Yeah, I think it may be important just to explain to the audience what a smart contract is. Can I do that?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. A smart contract is an app that you build. So it's actually a program that you build on the blockchain. And once it's built, it's immutable. It's there for the next, so long as the blockchain's there. So long as the Ethereum network is there as an example, which could conceivably be in 500 years' time, unless there's some form of extinction event, or something happens to the entire internet, the internet were to fail, then that blockchain would have failed. But otherwise, you write a smart contract. So the smart contract is what talks to the transfer of those tokens. That's the smart contract that will ensure that SARS gets paid or the agent gets paid. It's a smart contract that can be permissionless or would require permission for the transfer. In our case, because there has to be oversight and you've got to make sure that rates and taxes and all that gets paid, it would require permissions for that transfer. One day we'll get to a permissionless environment. But the smart contracts is really the magic behind the blockchain. A good example of a smart contract in the real world is a Coca-Cola vending machine. So if you think of a Coca-Cola vending machine, you take your coin, your R5 coin, whatever it is, you put it in and you get your Coke out. There's no trusted intermediary in between. So there's nobody you can sue, it just happens. And once it's on the blockchain, it just happens. It's going to change, in my mind, everything from insurance. I mean, can you imagine creating a smart contract that says everybody can invest in a liquidity pool, and the moment at Home Affairs a death certificate is printed or registered, a death is registered, the funeral policy pays out instantly. That's what a smart contract does, is it pays out straight away. It will act in accordance with the instructions and no one can hack it and no one can change that. And that's your smart contract. So just go back to the question, Scott. The increasing prevalence of DeFi platforms and smart contracts, how are these integrated with real estate tokenization to ensure compliance with existing regulations? At the moment, they are not, except, let me say this to you. An NFT is an ERC 721 protocol. Okay, so that's what it's called. The smart contract that regulates a NFT is known as a 721. ERC 721s are excluded from the definition of crypto assets. So if you were to create a token, which is a 721, ERC 721 smart contract, you'd find that you wouldn't be regulated in terms of our crypto regulation because it's an NFT. And I'd imagine that will change pretty soon. So that's a brilliant example where you can, if you go with an ERC 20, which is your normal meme coins, most of the tokens out there are ERC 20s, then it would be regulated. That falls squarely within regulation. And then what we intend doing, as I mentioned earlier, is we intend, when the time is right, when the regulators have an appetite for this, to create smart contracts that plug into their databases. So if there is an outstanding balance that needs to be paid, the smart contract will insist on payment prior to transfer.
Yeah, it's interesting. We built ours on the ERC 20 when we did it. How's liquidity of tokenized real estate assets compared to traditional real estate investments, especially in the regulatory constraints? You've spoken already to liquidity, and I'm conscious there's quite a few questions coming through here. So maybe we can just do some rapid fire in terms of this?
Cool. Liquidity, we are enhancing liquidity by creating APIs so that we can list the same asset on multiple exchanges with the same order book. So when it comes to liquidity in the real estate market, it's yet to be seen. Avalanche have dedicated, they've committed to spending $55 million on real world assets, real estate assets, to enhance that liquidity. Regulatory constraints don't really come into the question of liquidity.
Are there specific types of real estate, commercial, residential, underdeveloped land, that are more suitable for tokenization? And if so, why?
No, I'd say so long as there's a business case. So we won't, if it's bad for the investor, we wouldn't list the investment. And we've got FSPs that we work with that actually look very, very carefully at the investment, because we want them to also sell to their client base.
Brilliant. FSP stands for financial service provider, just in case anyone's battling with all the lingo. Looking ahead, how do you foresee the evolution of regulation around real estate tokenization, and what potential impacts might this have on the broader real estate market?
I think the starting point would be, I think, for the regulators to provide regulation outside of the cryptocurrency space. The policy document on crypto put together by the Intergovernmental Financial Working Group, which includes the Reserve Bank and all the financial institutions in South Africa, they have expressly said that they don't want to actually get involved in the DeFi space. I consulted to them, about 30 of them on a call, and I said to them, I used an example of a smart contract derivative. Now, a derivative or an option requires counterparties to the contract. We built through the Cowrie project a smart contract that doesn't require that. So it's a future that doesn't have counterparties to the contract. And I posed the question to them. I said, what are you guys going to do about that? Because that falls squarely outside of financial market regulation. It's outside of it. And their answer was they literally do not have the capacity to deal with anything outside of cryptocurrencies. And they expressly said that they want to rely on our financial laws, our Financial Markets Act, and the Financial Sector Regulations, Collective Investment Schemes Act, to actually regulate the space. Now, one of the gaps that has existed in South Africa for some time would be the regulation of single asset alternative investment funds. Now, single asset alternative investment funds remain unregulated. I say single asset because the moment you have more than one asset, it becomes a portfolio and it's hit by the Collective Investment Schemes Act. So you have a single asset investment and you're good to go. That is going to be regulated when the COFI bill comes into effect, and they anticipate that in 3 years' time. And what's anticipated there is that you set up a structure such as a trust. The trustees would have to be registered with the FSCA, and if it's a limited partnership, the general partner would have to be registered. So it wouldn't be massive. What we don't have is, you'd think with the regulation that all exchanges would have to be, would fall under the existing regulation that just came out. That's not the case. As I mentioned, an ERC 721 NFT exchange would fall outside of it because they've excluded NFT from the definition of crypto asset.
How do you see this, and I'm going to ask you, a question I've been asked so many times and I don't know the answer to it. Because if you asked me in 2017, I'd be like, blockchain, real estate's going to change completely. And then, we got quite a nasty shock when our ICO was a complete and utter failure. There's no way to beat around the bush. And on top of that, 5-6 years later, the world hasn't dramatically changed a hell of a lot from a regulatory perspective. How do you see the next decade panning out realistically between this, traditional real estate market where generally you got quite old school players that kind of are used to doing it their old way? You've got this regulatory environment that's not too easy to change, but yet you've got investors and you've spoken about the Gen Zs and a whole bunch of other people that there's more and more demand coming in. How do you realistically, best guess, see the next 5 to 10 years playing out in this real estate space?
What I'm hoping for is, let's say, the layer 2 deeds office, when the regulators see that exists and it's possible and it's actually functional, one would hope that the deeds office would move to a blockchain type environment. So I'm anticipating within the next 10 years that'll happen, and the role of attorneys through that will be diminished. So, the layer 2 will become a layer 1 type deeds office, and there won't be a need for the layer 2. We have to put together special structures, which hopefully we won't have to do once regulation comes in. And then the things like a REIT. Now, the tax benefits of a REIT are there because the Income Tax Act defines a REIT, but it defines a REIT as being listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange or on a South African stock exchange. That's within the definition. So the moment you tokenize and you create a REIT in effect, you don't get that tax break. So what I'm hoping that the regulator, with a bit of lobbying, will include in the definition of REIT a tokenized REIT. That's the kind of stuff I anticipate. But it's going to take a while because the regulators are scared, and I don't think many of them understand blockchain. And once they do, and once there's social proof, and once people see that this is actually working, I think they'll jump in, get to understand it better, and it'll be completely different. If we could only become a Dubai, if the opportunity is there for South Africa to say, you know what, we actually want to create an industry around this. We want to be the trailblazers, as we've seen in the UAE. It would be fantastic. I mean, we don't anticipate that in South Africa, but that's what we would want. What I anticipate is it's going to take 10 years to create specific legislation around real estate and the tokenization of real estate. But it's going to be towards the end of your 10-year period. Certainly not in the first 5 years.
I actually formed the African Crowdfunding Association, and little did I know it would take another 5 years for that to be regulated. So it's so interesting. It reminds me of what Elon Musk said, where he said, if you're a regulator and if you stick with the current rules and you don't change anything, you're going to have a job tomorrow. But if you change something new and it doesn't work, you get fired. So there's no incentive to change anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no's a lot easier to say than yes.
Let me, I'm conscious of time here. I'm conscious of your time. Let me just run through. There's a couple of questions here that have been posted. So Margie said, are you able to buy real estate tokens?
Are you? Yes. There are exchanges in the world, and as I mentioned, in South Africa, there's the Libix. So go Google Libix quota, and you'll see our clients on there. We have no interest in that. So I'm just mentioning it to you, and there are many more that we're working with. And there are some big exchanges that we're working with. So we're hoping to list a aesthetics clinic that is, the intention is to build it in Grenada. So it's all offshore, and those kind of projects will come online. So at the moment they're the smaller ones, but soon we're going to have considerably bigger ones.
How is tokenization similar or different to the use of blockchain, for example, by GS Partners, Lydian, and guys like Joseph Heath, and the massive abuse of blockchain and the metaverse? How do we as normal man in the street distinguish? Are you aware of these schemes, and where do they stand in relation to the laws? It seems it's blatantly used to lure in people. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure what he's talking about there.
Well, let me just say this to you. The crypto world is probably 90% scams, if not higher than that. It's kind of weird. It's brought the worst out of humans. I commented the other day, in the 80s, where were the scams? They were very, very limited. now in the crypto world, it's a scam after scam after scam. We've put together, because it's all about credibility in that kind of environment, what we've done is we've gone so far as to appoint an integrity officer. You pointed that out. So there's somebody that you can phone at Schindler's who's been appointed to a project, and you can say, listen, is this legit? And it's about the site that you find or that you go on. Most of the real world assets sites don't actually have that legal connection. And innocently sometimes, you take Bored Apes, those NFTs that I think still sell for millions of dollars, and there's no underlying asset. But just to illustrate a point, they say in their terms and conditions that there's an assignment of copyright. Now, legally, there isn't. There is no assignment of copyright. So even innocently, they make representations that cannot be relied on. So, go through a professional service firm or get your attorneys to check it out, to do the due diligence. Our approach is to put together all the due diligence documentation that one would need if you're an attorney instructed by a client to do the due diligence and to actually post that on the site with the project. You got to look out for that. As I mentioned earlier, don't invest in a site where you don't know who the team is and you're not sure of the jurisdiction. Avoid those like the plague.
And I think also just be careful just a caveat to what you just said, don't just go to your local attorney down the street, because if you think the regulators don't know much about blockchain, neither will your local attorney. So make sure you're talking to someone who knows what they're talking about,
On that score, most of my clients say that the benefit of coming to us is the fact that you don't spend the first 2 hours explaining blockchain concepts and then only get into the meat of it, which I think 90% of lawyers out there struggle with. In fact, we've put together the South African Institute of Blockchain Practitioners to allow us to intervene in court cases as amicus curiae, as friends of the court, to actually make sure that bad precedents aren't set as a result of the advocates and the legal representatives not actually understanding blockchain.
Really interesting. So it reminds me of a story, and sorry, it's a little bit off track, but it explains exactly what we're talking about. I was talking to lawyers in London years ago with Jacob Moritz, and I said to the guys, well, we want to help retail investors. And they said, it's impossible. I said, guys, how can it be impossible? I've just traveled on a tube where Crowdcube and Cedars and Property Partners all have adverts all over the tube that you can invest from £10. And they were like, oh yeah, no, because they use self-certification. I was like, dude, I literally just asked you 10 minutes ago how to do this. It's ridiculous. Mavena said, once an asset is fractionalized, where's the value of the buyer investor? Does it come out of the pumped up or hoped for increased value as a result of popularity?
So the pumping up won't necessarily be as a result of popularity. That will be as a result of updates and the ROI being paid. Now, when I say updates, every project will have a community that will get constant feedback on the performance of the actual product. Now, if the returns, let's say on a profit debenture, are exceptionally high, obviously the price will go up because no one's going to offload at a lower price because the investment is so good. What we are avoiding are pumps and dumps. In the crypto world, it's actually quite easy to arrange a pump and a dump. You can't have that in the space. I mean, it's unethical, though it's outside of regulation. You can't go there. I think the value is really going to be pegged to the updates and the ROI distributions.
So back to basic fundamentals of investing in simple terms.
Yeah, it's going to be the same as a share on the stock exchange.
Yeah.
But like with a share in the stock exchange, back in the late 90s, you'd have all the hype and you'd have the pumps and I think pets.com got registered and they were just empty shells. Yeah. You gotta avoid that and actually just look at the fundamentals of the investment, and the information needs to be provided to the investor.
And like I said, I'll take 3 more questions, and then I actually want to run through an opportunity for people if they want to understand the fundamentals. So Alex said, yeah, in the rapidly evolving landscape of Web3, what strategies and technologies do you foresee being crucial in ensuring the security and integrity of decentralized applications and blockchain networks over the decade? We've touched on quite a lot of this, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that you want to kind of highlight there.
Yeah, I think what's emerging, I mean, what's important are really the smart contracts and the integrity of the smart contracts. What one has companies out there that they literally try and hack the smart contract to make sure that it's secure. I think the approach that we've created and adopted, and that is to be able to deal with any issues off-chain. So if there has been a security compromise, we're going to wipe them out. We're going to wipe those tokens out and airdrop tokens to the legit investors. They come and they register and they can get them. So if there is a hack, it's very, very different to what we've seen thus far. Everything we've done within Schindler's is there to actually mitigate that risk. And that's why I think this is such an opportunity for professional service companies to come on board, because it's around the mitigation of risk. You know, even accounting firms can get on board. But it's more on the legal side, I would say, than the tech side.
Yeah. And it comes back to what you said with, that whole crypto 3.0.
Yeah.
In terms of, Pierre, you asked a question, will Maurice's marketplace be linked with Wealth Migrate and our wallets? That is a work in progress that Maurice and
Absolutely.
I and the tech team have been trying to work on. And funny enough, as I said, I'm actually in Paris. I met with Lemonway yesterday. Just to understand where they're going. So I've been trying to understand and put together this whole framework, and I'm meeting with Jaco on Thursday, and I've put Maurice and Jaco together. So we're trying to make progress in terms of this in terms of that. Lisa, so a token is akin to a derivative. A token is a virtual derivative underpinned by a fraction of a real estate.
No, so the way to see it, it's we can apply anything to the token. Imagine a piece of paper. It's a legal contract. That is your token. Now, the legal side of things is really what determines the nature of the token. Is it a bond? Is it a derivative? Is it a future? You can even create pref shares as an example. So debt and equity instruments. But the project owner in consultation with us will then decide on the type of instrument, and that instrument or a share in that instrument via a limited partnership will be represented by that token. So you've got to see it as proof of ownership, but also wherever that token is, with whatever wallet that token is in, that's the wallet that will receive the tokens as dividends, the dividend tokens.
Yes, said, what is the airdrop seen as? A pure dividend? In other words, tax to be paid on it? So it's totally different from staking, where one will be airdropped rewards.
The nature, we airdropped rewards on staking, it will be the same type of airdrop. What was the first part of the question? Let's repeat it.
Is it a pure dividend? In other words, tax to be paid upon it?
If through a general partnership, yes, there would be tax, and it would be in the hands of the token holder.
Yeah.
You'd certainly have to account for tax.
Yeah. Well, that's what I heard you say earlier, is that with your level 2, you're complying with everything, or
comply with everything
in the current environment.
But there it is up to the token holder. We provide the financials. If it's a general partnership, the financials then are made available to the token holders, and the token holders then take those and they determine their tax. Remember, it's a partnership, so there's a flow through.
Yep. Yasim said, can tokenization work for different investment categories or just real estate investments?
Now, real estate is probably the most difficult of the lot. If you give me art, if you give me anything, I mean, we're doing private equity raises through the tokenization. We've got guys who approached us with startup ideas. Now those are high risk, high reward, but raise money. If you want to open up a sausage saloon, a small franchise, you can literally raise that capital through tokenization. and it's any real world asset. Some are easier, as I mentioned, commodities are far, far easier than securities, and then real estate becomes far, far more complex if you want there to be actual rights in the hands of the token holders, as opposed to interposing a company, an SPV in between.
I'm so glad that we chose the hardest one. Anyway, Vanessa said, and it sort of backs up what you just said. It's a comment. She said it's already been used in other categories. Drea Burbank already used it to pay farmers in the Amazon for reforestation carbon credits. So thanks for that, Vanessa. And then Jack,
I just want to explain that because it's a brilliant initiative. We're also working on it. Now, I mentioned smart contracts to you. Now, these smart contracts, like a vending machine, can't talk to the real world. When there's data in the real world that has to be fed into a smart contract, the source of that data is known as an oracle. Now, when it comes to carbon sequestration and compensating local communities, you can literally geolocate an area, have a satellite as the oracle, and the smart contract would automatically pay without any human intervention if, let's say, soil erosion improves, carbon sequestration is X, monitored by the satellite, and then you can airdrop on that specific location. If you go to cowrie.org, you'll see it's the King's Project, and over there's a video on what we call the airstrike model. And the airstrike model is to actually do pretty much the same. If there's a disaster zone, you can airdrop over that disaster zone. And if you want the oracle to be a weather satellite that actually picks up that there's a hurricane over the area, it can automatically actually drop SPA vouchers if you want to. Let's say it's in the Eastern Cape and you want, and there is a disaster, you can do that. So we're very, very involved in that initiative. It's a side business. It's not Shin's Digital Assets. We've created a company for impact blockchain projects. That's Virtual Nation Builders. You can actually see it on virtualnationbuilders.com. You'll see our initiatives there.
Maurice, what an awesome way to end off, because I love where purpose is intertwined with profit. And, for me, it's sort of purpose, profit, and passion coming together. It's how we change the world. Jacqueline said, wow, so much incredible knowledge imparted by you, Maurice. I got assimilated all. Thank you. Jay said, very timely, make sure core team has access to replay. So her core team has access to the replay. Cowrie.org, maybe you can just type it in there because a couple of people have asked what that
here
site
we
was.
go. www.cowrie.org. Cowrie is the cowrie shell. The cowrie shell being Africa's first currency. That's where the king came up with the name.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I really want to thank you for your time. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And as always, you amaze me with your depth of knowledge in terms of this whole space. So yeah, I really look forward to where we can take this forward in terms of this partnership. I think we share a huge amount of values in terms of where the world can change. And you come at it with a space that, like I said, and I started off tonight, I've never found the legal team that understood this stuff. I always could find the lawyers. I could always find the tech team. I could always find the property people that knew that this is what they wanted. I could find the investors, but I could never find the bloody the legal guys. So really appreciate you sharing all of this knowledge tonight with our community.
Only a pleasure. Big pleasure to the community, and thanks for attending this evening. And if there's anything, if you have any questions, please reach out. You'll find my email address, my contact details on the website. I'm very, very passionate about this space, and I'm open to really helping anybody out there. And if you know of anybody who's been scammed in a crypto scam, we have opened a pro bono initiative to actually help those victims out. So also bear that in mind.
Awesome. Well, Maurice, listen, I know we only asked for 90 minutes of your time, and I love it when the community is asking lots of questions. I'm never going to complain when people are engaged and asking lots, but thank you so much for everything. And for those of you who want to stay online, I told you that I had a little benefit for you where I'll share with you a lot of how you can get those fundamentals. But Maurice, thanks for your time, and travel safe tomorrow. I think you're on an airplane, huh?
Yes, yeah, off to Austria. Thanks so much, Scott, and thanks again to the audience.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
So
Bye-bye.
listen,
Yeah.
what I wanted to know, no, just for the community, what I wanted to share with you is we started tonight talking about, it's all good and well how this tech is working, but how do we do it? How do we build globally diversified passive income? And Maurice, from your side, if you want to duck, you're very welcome to. If you want to stay, great. But I just want to share with people some practical things that they can do, the next steps. So what I'll share with you quickly is it's all about building globally diversified passive income. And how do you do it? How do you choose the right countries? How do you choose the right currencies? How do you choose the right assets? How do you choose the right partners? How do you get the timing right? And Maurice spoke a lot about fundamentals, and it's all about fundamentals. So how do you learn the fundamentals? And there's this beautiful saying by Einstein that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So my question to you is, what are you going to do differently? Now, most of us know what we want to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be here. I mean, you just spent the last 90 minutes of your life learning about this. So you know what you want to do, but you don't know how to do it in terms of that process. And the problem with most training is that there's no accountability, no monitoring, short-term feel good, failure to implement, lose focus and effectiveness as it's part down. And then what? Well, if you're anything like me and everybody else, you go look for another course, another book, another seminar, which you might or might not implement. And so things have to change. You have to change in terms of wanting to do it a different way. If you want to learn a skill, let's just say time management. And if you start here and you do a time management course, your skills are going to improve. But what's going to happen? You're going to drop off and you're going to be at a better level. So, but from where you started, but you're definitely going to drop off. And there's only one way to go to the next level. That's to repeat the skill. Repetition is the mother of skill. You will drop it, but again, you repeat the skill and you go to another level and another level. And, there's so many people that I recognize, and Derek from our mastermind is here tonight. And each one of these people are learning each and every time. Repetition is the mother of the skill. Repetition is the mother of skill in terms of how do you do it. So when I hear Maurice talk, and by the way, you must understand, I've been to Singularity University. I've done the executive program. I've cum laude 2 degrees in technology. And yet when you hear him talk around a lot of this stuff, you feel overwhelmed. You don't know where to start. It's information overload. You know you need to get started, but on what? It seems like a mountain to climb. Statistically, 97% of people are going to fail because they don't take action. You don't want to be one of them, but what are you going to do differently? You want to walk away with a plan. You want to take action and you want to make sure that you get results. And what we've done over the last 20 odd years is we've helped 4,000 plus investors do it. We've helped them achieve wealth protection, plan B, peace of mind, diversification, passive income, freedom, global citizen, empowering their children, ultimately living a life unlimited. And, if you look at the numbers, members from 178 countries facilitated over $1.3 billion in terms of value, over $100 million through the platform, and $30 million paid out in exits and dividends. And what I want to share with you is what we call the golden formula. There's actually only 2 things you need to know. And Maurice has alluded to it many times tonight. It's the right information and the right partners. That's it. You can take away all the noise because the fundamentals never change. It's about getting the right information and the right partners. And so I wrote a book 10 years ago, and that book was actually endorsed by Clem Sunter. And the book was to try and help people that were investing in property stop making mistakes. Statistically, 80% of people that invest overseas actually lose money. And so I wrote a book. I based it on Clem Sunter's scenario planning. I built a 4-dimensional model on top of it. He actually endorsed it. And I love the saying up front. It was the foreword up front by Nelson Mandela, which said, money won't create success. The freedom to make it will. And I tried to share with people all of the mistakes that I'd made, all the lessons I'd learned around investing around the world. But it was primarily in residential. And when I wrote the book 10 years ago, I thought that I was writing an evergreen book. But the world has changed so much in 10 years. In fact, if you even take the last 5 years in what Maurice has just spoken about. And that's why we created this course called Wealth Going Global 5.0. And it's a digital upgrade. It's a 10-year upgrade on the book, Property Going Global. And ultimately, it helps you know what countries to invest in, what currencies to invest in, including crypto, by the way, what assets to invest in, what partners to invest, and how do you do it with time. And so I want to share with you the 5 core modules. The first one is countries. So it basically helps you uncover the global market, where to invest. The mission will help investors get 100% clarity on the countries they wish to invest in and avoid the mistakes that 80% of investors make. And again, it takes into account Clem Santa's scenario planning. We actually got Clem Santa live and he shared his scenarios, and it helps you make educated, informed decisions based on facts and fundamentals. We've got all our models, which we share and teach you how you can actually put it in. So it's not based on opinion, it's based on actual numbers and results. We call it our global property system. This is the old one from 10 years ago, but on the new course, we share all the updated facts, figures, so that it's easy for you to know where to invest. And then we share with you our GID system, our global investment due diligence system. It's a 10-layered system where we take you through and we actually teach you how to do it. And then what's beautiful, in my opinion, is that there's no point in just getting the theory. You want to walk away with action steps. And so we've got the silver, which are the compulsory, and it's no more than sort of 15 to 20 minutes a week to be able, so that you walk away with tangible action. And then you've got the gold, which is where you can come back and it's bonus areas and you can actually go deeper. And so as an example, in this section, it's understanding the GIDS model, it's reviewing and adjusting the country data, and ultimately it's choosing your top 5 countries. So you literally walk away with an investment strategy sheet with your top 5 countries on it. And I mean, the feedback we had from people was amazing. Mind-blowing, great stuff, phenomenal. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Wow, really fantastic. Module 2 was currencies, the currency conundrum, managing risk in the global investments. The mission was to help investors diversify their portfolio and mitigate risks by investing in multiple currencies. And we actually got James Painter, who wrote the book, wrote chapter 2 in the book 10 years ago. He came and gave us an entire update on all the top currencies, whether it's the dollar, the pound, the euro, the Aussie dollar, Bitcoin, Ethereum, you name it, basically, the Rand, etc. And then we shared with you the models that I use, the Global Wealth Index. I updated it to 2023 so that you can see what's happening and you can compare different currencies, different investments, and what it means to you as a global citizen. And then what James took us through is, what are the hidden engines behind the markets, and why do exchange rates change, and where is the world going, and what do you need to know about it? So the action steps were to understand the Global Wealth Index, to understand where to get the updated information, and then to choose your top 5 currencies. And again, the feedback that we had from people was just amazing. Love your passion. Really enjoyed these. Love the knowledge. Thanks so much. Another great session, etc. Module 3 was assets. It was building your global portfolio, selecting the right assets for the investment. And this was all about helping investors know what are the top 15 assets. There's 8 golden rules that you need to look at so that you can stop losing money and spending decades of time researching them through trial and error. And you can literally take ours and our partners' experience and focus in on the right assets, the right information, and the right partners. And so if you go in depth, it's the primary versus the secondary markets. Maurice alluded today to the primary markets. Is what is asset allocation? What are the top 15 most recognized assets? What are the 8 golden rules? And finally, what are the top 15 assets that you should be investing in according to the data? And there's a whole bunch of models that we share with people so that you can actually go and do this yourself. There's due diligence, and we teach you how to do it. So the action steps are reviewing the asset cheat sheets and the deal risk categories, prioritizing the asset classes that you would like to invest in, and then finally, filling in your top 15 assets in terms of this process. And again, so much incredible feedback from people in terms of this entire process. Module 4 is partners, the power of partnership, investing globally with confidence. And the mission here will help investors be confident in their ability to choose the right partners. Maurice spoke a lot tonight about partners and the power of partners, but how do you choose the right partners? I've been doing this for 28 years. And so we share with you, we got 3 white papers: Investing with Confidence, the 5 laws of building wealth through real estate, which is our beginner white paper. We've then got the 5 keys to offshore real estate investment success, which is our intermediate. And then our advanced is 4 ways to expand your global real estate portfolio through strategic partners. And there's a whole way that around the world partners are looked at and how they're categorized. and the type of partners that you want to be investing with. And so again, we go back to our global, investment due diligence system. We created GIDS 1.0 that I spoke a lot about in the book 10 years ago. And over the last 10 years, we've evolved that into GIDS 2.0. We literally share with you the documentation as to how this works. And both of them are 20 to 30 page documents that you can read through in detail. And so the action steps are to read the white paper, design your own due diligence criteria, or literally copy ours. And we've given it to you on a template, made it easy for you. And again, some of the feedback here: breathtaking experience. Your name will appear in my testimonial one day. Thanks so much. The devil's in the detail. I'm agree that good partners are key, but need to keep an eye on other things. Tons of invaluable information, lots of homework. Thanks for the invaluable as always. Grateful to be able to be present. The journey seems to only just be the beginning, etc., etc., etc. And then finally, module 5, time. Timing is everything. Portfolio construction accounts for 85% of your returns. And ultimately, the mission is that investors design their wealth plan. And you literally walk away with a plan as to where you are and how you're going to retire. So understand your wealth plan, decide on your needs and variables, and finalize your wealth plan. And again, thanks, guys. You're changing lives. This is amazing. Thank you. Thanks for a great session, great presentation, super cool, etc. And this is where you get the results. You walk away with tangible results. You walk away with a wealth plan, and you walk away with an investor strategy report. And I want to open this up for you quickly here. And I'm only working on one screen, so you're going to have to just bear with me for 2 seconds. But if I log in here, and nope, that's not where I wanted to go. Just 2 seconds. Where am I going? Okay, so I've logged in here. Oh, I've just got to sign in. I actually just want to share it live. Anyone can put a PowerPoint together. I want to share what you're going to get because it makes me super excited. My partner Shane built this for people. And if I go into the course, so I can go into the course, I can do it. It's effectively a home study course. So there's a group, you can go and liaise with other people in terms of the process. But the cool thing is you can go into the course and you can literally go in. So if I go to currencies and I can go, countries, can't read there. And you've got the lesson, I can go and watch the lesson in my own time. I've got the materials, where to go and find all the different calculators and graphs and Clem Santa and all the stuff with the countries. But the best part is I get to the end and I literally say, right, I want to build my wealth plan, and I can download my wealth plan, and it's all been digitally integrated. It's not someone else's wealth plan. Your financial advisor has not gone and put you in a box. This is your personal wealth plan. You've got your entire personal wealth plan printed out, your why, your how, and your what. And if you go to your investor strategy sheet, you can do exactly the same thing. And I can literally click on it. Why is it not coming up? Give me 2 seconds. And I can literally go to my investor strategy sheet. And again, I can print it out so that I know exactly where I want to invest, which countries, which currencies, and which assets. So I tell you what, I get super excited when I see this because I want people to walk away with tangible benefits in terms of the overall process. And so that's what it is. You choose the right countries, you choose the right currencies, you choose the right assets, you know how to find the right partners, and you know how to build a wealth plan over time. The value, if you put it together, if you took the value of what people paid for the book, it was $30. In the old days, you came on a buyer's trip, cost $5,000 just to fly to America, England, or Australia. I personally paid $8,000 to go for a week with Dr. Dolph DeRoos. If you take the average due diligence that's done on some of the bigger projects, it's upwards of $250,000. And even if you take our mastermind, people, including myself, have paid well over $5,000 and in many instances, $25,000 to $50,000 in terms of that process. So what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get the countries, you're going to get the currencies, you're going to get the assets, you're going to get the partners, and you're going to get the time. And if you take the total value, it's just short of $5,000 in terms of what you're looking at. But we're not going to charge you $5,000. And the reason being is that I want you to have the fundamentals. We want you to walk away with the fundamentals in terms of that process. The rate that we should be charging in terms of the course of this substance and this caliber is $997. We're not even charging that. And in October, we've actually got our 10-year birthday, and the prices will be going up on our birthday to $497. But tonight, we're literally offering it at $397. So the whole idea is that we want people to have the fundamentals. We want you to have the substance. We want you to take action, because ultimately we want you to be an investor and to build globally diversified passive income. And what's interesting, if you're interested in it, you can literally go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join. So go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join, and you can come on a journey. Many, many people have been on the journey. The testimonials have been phenomenal. And what I've loved about it is it's been everyone from teachers to electricians to entrepreneurs to accountants to auditors to farmers that have got tremendous value out of the substance of the course in terms of that process. And what we guarantee is your satisfaction in terms of that process. You know, someone like myself and our team, we really put a lot of energy and effort into this to make sure that you're going to walk away with tangible value in terms of that process. And if you want to go and look at what clients are saying, there's so many testimonials. You can literally go to Trustpilot, go to the link, wealthgoingglobal.com/join. You can go watch videos, you can go and read testimonials, but literally go and see the impact that it's had on other people. And then ask yourself, back to Einstein, you know, you can keep doing what you've always done, but if you're expecting different results, that's insanity. Or you could do something different. Maybe this is the something different that you're looking for. Go and see the impact that it's had on other people and see whether this would make sense for you. wealthgoingglobal.com/join if that resonates for you. You know, most people, if you come along to a presentation like tonight, you're not even going to remember 10 to 20% of what you've heard. It's statistics. You need to get involved. You need to have the repetition, you know, on an ongoing basis, and you need to actually do it. You need to take action. And that's why wealthgoingglobal.com/join. You know, a lot about what Maurice has taught tonight is about smart contracts. It's about tokenization. It's about the future of investing. Well, that's exactly what we're teaching people. Smart investing, smart, you know, telephones, smart watches, smart laptops. But what are the fundamentals? The fundamentals don't change. You need to know the fundamentals. And so there's a couple of bonuses for people that want to participate. One of them is the power of clarity. I believe so much in the if you know about the golden circle of the power of why. And, you know, for me, this is all about the power of clarity. It's the second most TED talk ever watched. And I literally share with people the power of clarity. And you can see how much value people got from this. And we'll give this to you as a bonus session. The second thing is we actually paid Kleb Sunter to come live and to share what is happening in the world. And he shared what are the top 10 scenarios, you know, the 2 top scenarios for the global economy, and what are the top 10 flags that we need to be looking for. He showed the top 2 scenarios for South Africa and what are the flags that people need to know. He spoke about the East and the West. He spoke about BRICS. And so really, Kleb Sunter is one of the top 5 strategists in the world. And you can go read his books, you can go online, you can read all his information, or you can literally hear it from the horse's mouth, where we interviewed him and paid him personally to come and to present for us. We've got live Q&A sessions. So we actually took people with all their questions through the live Q&A sessions. And what I'm going to offer you as a bonus is that once a month, I will turn up live, even though you've got the FAQ with all of the video questions. But if there's something that hasn't been answered, I will turn up live to help you with that. We've got the community discussion so that you can work and collaborate with like-minded people. You've got access to our wealth hacker environment for the next 12 months. You've got access to the cheat sheets and the updates from the book in terms of property going global. You've got access to the cheat sheets around the deal risk categories and the asset terminology. You've got all our calculators. And by the way, these have never been shared before. We've never publicly shared our property going global calculators, our global wealth index calculators, our freedom calculators, and literally you'll be given all of them as part of this course. Investor language made easy. You know, I went into this quite a lot during the course, but I actually want to create an entire module where I help people discern and decipher all of this complicated language. We had quite a lot of it again tonight so that it can be made easy for you. The Dummy's Handbook to Cracking the Investor Code. And then finally, bring it all together, and why it's important based on tonight's masterclass is we bring it all together with smart investing. What is the future of technology? How do you bring GIDs together, all the fundamental stuff? And ultimately, how do you bring it together with smart investing? And if this is something that interests you, go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join. And hopefully, if you take action, I have no doubt that you'll get the benefit that so many other people have got. And you can literally take your understanding from here to here. And then really, once you've got that fundamental understanding, technology can really help you leverage and take it to the next level. And so if you want to build globally diversified passive income, then this is the action to take. If you don't, and you're very happy staying in your country where you've got the challenges of being, tied to your local country, your local currency, being financially trapped in your country and being susceptible to your own economy and your own political system, then that's your choice. Then we're not here to help you. But if you want globally diversified passive income, which in my world is freedom, and you want to learn how to diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time, I'm not aware of any environment out there where you can get this level of knowledge, this foundational and fundamental understanding to take you to that next level. And that's what it is. Countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time, plus the bonus sessions. There's literally 6 modules, and you work through each of them. My recommendation is to do 1 a week. It'll take you 6 weeks to complete. But after 6 weeks, if you have a very strong foundation in any building, if you have a very strong foundation, you can build a very tall building. So if you want to build your house on sand, then I suggest you don't do this course. If you want to build your portfolio on a very strong foundation, then I highly recommend that you go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join. Go and read all about it. Go and read the testimonials. And if it assimilates with what you're looking to do, which is to build a solid foundation and to build globally diversified passive income, then I do not know of any other way to be able to get this knowledge as simply and safely and in a logical way out there. And by the way, this is not a university course. It's not a degree. It's nothing like that. It's from real life people that are doing it. They're not teaching it, they're doing it in terms of that process. So again, to remind you, 5 core modules plus the bonus, and literally it's available immediately. You can start tonight. If you take countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time, the value is just short of $5,000. If you add smart investing, it's just short of $6,000. If you add the Q&A, well, ultimately, I think that's priceless personally, because anyone can do a PowerPoint, but actually asking people that have been doing this for 28 years, and most importantly, bringing all my mistakes, because what's the value of experience? It's mistakes. It's helping you avoid the mistakes that I took decades to learn. And I've watched many other investors and been involved in investments and made mistakes. And what have we learned to evolve and make sure we don't repeat them? The wealth hackers, then we got fast action bonuses. And these are for people that literally take action before Sunday in terms of this process, and they'll get access to the Clem Santa, they'll get access to the cheat sheets, they'll get access to the calculators, and they'll get access to the investor language made easy. So if you take the total value, it's over $6,000. We're not even charging $997. We're not charging $497. We literally are putting it in your pocket. And I want to be clear, $397 is not going to change my life. It won't impact my life in any way. It won't impact Shane's life in any way either. But we know it'll impact your life because it's impacted so many other people's lives. And if it doesn't impact your life, then let us know and we'll give you money back to you. Because, for me, our thing is about you building a very, very strong foundation and, working through it. And that's why the modules have been built. If you go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join, my recommendation is that's the action to take. If Maurice said tonight, learn the fundamentals, these are the fundamentals in terms of where you go. And that's why our guaranteed satisfaction's there. Literally, if in 30 days you look at it and you say, as long as you've put in the energy and the effort, and we can tell whether you've been through it, then, and you don't believe that it's providing you the substance you require, we'll give you your money back. But what's interesting, hasn't happened once yet in terms of that process. And that's why the phenomenal feedback we've had from people has just been overwhelming. I actually have been quite surprised myself by how much value people have got out of it. And my strong recommendation is go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join and go and watch the videos and go and read all the testimonials. You know, if you're one of those people sitting on the fence or you want all the detail, go and read it, go through the page, read it and go through it in terms of all the details, etc. And so there's the formula. You know, we started tonight. If you want globally diversified passive income, you need to diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. How do you do it? I know that you want to do it. Otherwise, you even wouldn't be here. I know you want to do it, but how do you do it in terms of that process? And I want to share with you a lesson that I love, and I only learned recently from my partner, Shane. But there's a guy called Alex Hormozy, and he said that you learn more from doing than learning how to do. And so let's take into account who this guy is. Okay, now I always joke, he looks a bit like a gangster. But at the age of 26, he was broke. He experienced many different failed ventures. He took time to reflect on his experiences and realized the importance of learning from his failures. He embraced the concept of learning through hands-on experience and practical application. That's why this course is practical. It's not theory. I want you to walk away with a plan. I want you to walk away with a solid foundation that for the next 5 or 10 years, whatever your wealth plan is that you want to achieve, you can achieve it in terms of that process. And look what happened in 5 years. He built multiple businesses of over $100 million by practical experience. And this is what he had to say.
If someone does something in a condition and then they learn something, and then you present the same condition, if their behavior changes, they have learned something, right? Which either happens through reinforcement or punishment. That's it. And so I was consuming all the stuff and in the same condition, which means that I had learned nothing despite consuming a lot of content. And so once I realized that, I realized that behavior and action was the thing that actually got me to learn. And so I biased all of my activity towards that rather than massive consumption of information. And I figured I would learn more from doing than from learning how to do. And that ended up being true.
You know, if you've been following me, and I've heard this so many times, you know, people have been watching your webinar, Scott, for 10 years. I've been coming to your events for 10 years and nothing's actually changed. You know, probably the best advice I can give you is what he's just shared. You'll learn more from doing than learning how to do. Stop learning how to do. Stop coming to webinars and master classes, etc., and start doing it. Start implementing it in terms of that process. And, you know, when Alex Hormozy said, people ask me how to do it. How did you move so quickly? And he said, I know how to buy time. And the follow-up question was, well, how do you buy time? And he said, by buying the time of other people took to make the mistakes that taught them lessons. You know, I've made so many mistakes in the last 28 years, and having helped thousands of investors from all over the world, I've watched many people make mistakes. And so how do you accelerate time? How do you take decades and turn them into days? Well, you learn from those mistakes. And that's why we built this course, so that people can avoid those mistakes that 80% of people make. And I remind you that the whole purpose of this course is that it's action steps. You know, each week, 15 to 20 minutes, you walk away with action, so that you walk away with a wealth plan, you walk away with an investor strategy sheet, and then there's the gold section, which you can go back to as many times as you want over your life. You'll own this course forever in terms of that process. So I'd like you just to imagine going forward into your future, what would your life be like 12 months from now if you'd actually worked through countries on a consistent basis, currencies on a consistent basis, assets on a consistent basis, partners on a consistent basis, time and time management, mindset and strategic thinking, execution and accountability, and investing and review. And, you know, imagine if you overlay that with technology and smart investing, which is, you know, certainly a passion and a purpose of where we're going in terms of that overall process. And again, to show you everything that you're getting, over $6,000 in value, but literally today, you can get it for $397. And all you got to do is go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join. Now I can see there's a whole bunch of questions here. So let me just see if I can answer these quickly. I know that one person asked a question earlier and they said, is there a payment plan? Yes, there actually is. If you go on the platform, there's a payment plan, and you can, you know, again, we want to make this as accessible to people as possible. There's another question, do I need to do this, once a week? And the answer is no. If you want to do it over a weekend, you can consume it all and do it all in a weekend. The recommendation is to do it, over a 6-week period. It was designed like that so that you do one module a week, you do one Q&A a week, you do your exercises, per week, and then you walk away with a very solid foundation over a 6-week period. I wouldn't recommend you take too much longer than that, because if you're anything like me, once you start to procrastinate, you don't finish, and that is a waste of time. Like, if you're going to do the work, make sure that you put it in, make the commitment for 6 weeks. And again, is $397 a lot of money? No, it's really not a lot of money. It's virtually not going to change my life. But is it a commitment? Yes. When people pay, they pay attention. That's why we don't give it away for free, because we want people that are committed, and we want you to get an outcome. And that's something I'm very, very passionate about. Martin said most crowdfunding, crowd-lending platforms already do tokenization of real estate assets, building projects, companies. What will blockchain add to that? So I think, Martin, one of the things that's interesting is blockchain's an enabler. And when you look at it, all of the platforms, including our own Wealth Migrate, is effectively tokenization assets already. So it could be real estate, building projects, private equity, structured notes, etc. But we're still doing it in an old school way. And there's a lot of middlemen involved. There's still SPVs involved. It's fiat currency involved. And in simple terms, a lot of costs. What blockchain will do is it'll remove all the middlemen. It'll remove all the costs, and it'll make it a hell of a lot more liquid in terms of the whole process, in terms of creating secondary markets, in terms of the process. And one of the things that Maurice spoke about is also irrefutable. So, there's very little chance of scams being able to take place. But the challenge is, particularly in the real estate space, is you've still got to wait for the deeds office. And that's why Maurice spoke about a level 2 process. So let me know if I answered your question. I could talk for half an hour about that question in terms of the process. Okay, there's lots of thank yous. Shane has put up the link there for the link to go to Wealth Going Global. So let me just look here quickly. There's a couple of frequently asked questions. What is the amount of capital you need to have when you start investing in the different asset classes? Look, there's lots of platforms around the world, and most of them start from £10, $10, etc. I know the Wealth Migrate platform is $10. And so you really don't need a huge amount of capital to be able to get going. That's why, as Warren Buffett says, the greatest investment you can make is in yourself. And we believe that the $397 is, the best investment that people can make in their understanding, to understand the fundamentals, so that you can ultimately make, the best decisions for you and your family going forward. Does the currency model include cryptocurrencies? Yes, it does. So it includes Bitcoin and Ether and a few others in terms of that process. Do you look at stock markets or only currencies? So under the asset classes, we do look at stock markets. We actually look specifically at ETFs. So we've actually taken all the asset classes into account in terms of that process. Is the majority of asset classes, partners, currencies centered around property, or are there other alternative assets? So there's of the 15 top assets, about 8 of them are property or real estate, and the rest are other assets. Private equity, structured notes, ETF, gold and silver, cryptocurrency, venture capital. So it looks at all the top assets, alternative assets to invest in. Do I need to be technical expert to understand all this information? The answer I would like to say is no. One of the things that I'm sorry if it comes across as arrogant, but one of the things I pride myself in is taking complicated information and trying to simplify it. And it's feedback we get from a lot of people regularly in terms of that process. So you definitely don't need to be a technical expert. What we've tried to do is take very complicated items that the financial markets have basically tried to keep opaque and very difficult for people to understand, and to make them understandable for everyone in terms of that process. How does one go about property tax implications in the different countries when you're in South Africa? So again, that's an interesting question, and we've got people from all over the world that have done this course. So it depends very much on where you are and what country you live in. And what we tend to refer to people as, we do have tax authorities, experts, whatever, per country, and we prefer to point people to those tax people who can help people in independent countries rather than giving generic tax advice. How long will I have access to the course? For as long as the internet lasts. So you'll have access to it. It's on our Wealth Going Global, it's on our Wealth University platform, and you'll have access to it forever. Is there a payment plan? I did actually answer that one already. So there is, if you go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join, you can actually go and see the different options. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. If there's any other questions, please let us know. Like I said to you, I am not sure where else in the world you can learn, because most other people try and put you in a box. They try and tell you South Africa is the best place, or England's the best place, or America is the best place, or medical buildings the best place, or the stock market's the best place, or structured notes are the best place. But no one takes a view from 30,000 feet and goes, well, hang on, before we get into that detail, what are the best countries to invest in? What are the best currencies to invest in? What are the best assets to invest in? How do I find the right partners and avoid the mistakes that 80% of other people make? How do I build a portfolio over time? How do I use technology? We've spoken about this so much tonight. How do I use technology, smart investing, smart contracts to invest? And then how do I get all my questions answered? How do I join a community of people, like-minded people? Do you know, statistically, if you do something on your own, you've got a less than 50% chance of succeeding. If you do it with a husband or a partner, a business partner, a wife, whatever, you've got a 60% chance of succeeding. If you do it in a like-minded community, you've got a higher than 70% chance of succeeding. And the value alone of that is over $6,000. That's not even taking into account the fast action bonuses that we'll give to those that take action by Sunday. And literally, you'll get access to Clem Santa, you'll get access to our cheat sheets, you'll get access to our calculators, and you'll get access to the course that we're going to be building over the next couple of months. All for $397. You need to make a decision. Is $397 going to be the difference between where you are today and where you want to be in 10 years because you take action? Or is it going to be your excuse? Is it going to be an investment in your future? Or are you going to have an excuse as to why you don't get the results you want, and you're going to blame the government or, the economy or your boss or your job or, whatever it is. And again, I remind you of Einstein. The definition of insanity is to expect different results, but yet to do the same thing. So my question is, what are you going to do differently? And my invitation to you is go to wealthgoingglobal.com/join. Do something different. You've got nothing to lose either. Because if you do it, and over the next 30 days, you just don't see the value, we'll give you money back. That's how much we believe in the course. So, in my opinion, it's risk-free. Your future, risk-free, or your excuses. So I'm having a bit of fun. I'm in Paris. I'm allowed to have fun. Anyway, Shane, I'm not sure if there's anything else. If anyone else has any other questions, I think that's all from my side. We've covered a huge amount. I'm on an airplane at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, so I need to start to wrap things up. I hope I haven't kept all these Parisians away talking too loudly in this tiny little apartment that probably costs more than half the South African GDP. But yes, any other questions, any other thoughts that anyone's got? Shane, anything that I'm missing or that I need to bring up for everyone?
Nope, I think you've gone through all the questions that I've seen here, Scott. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shane. And as always, thanks for helping put everything together in another wonderful masterclass with Maurice. I learned a hell of a lot. I know a bunch of people said they're going to have to go and look at all my notes. I took 41 different notes on my iPad. Yeah, so I'm going to have to go through all of this. And I think, maybe I'll summarize just a few things that I took. Maurice said, where would the law be going and what is the future of work? Crypto one is the whole Bitcoin basis. Crypto 2 is the whole ICO space. And Crypto 3 is the convergence of tech and law. And then what I loved with what he said here is the difference between crypto and real world assets is that crypto is a store of value. And if you lose your passport, you lose everything. Whereas real world assets use crypto as a representation of value. Thought that was really, really brilliant in terms of that process. The two things that are really going to change the market are the fact that by using blockchain, and this sort of answers Martin's question, they're going to be creating a secondary market where it can literally go from, one wallet to another wallet. And it's also not limited to any exchange. And then the second part is that it's hugely beneficial for partners to be able to raise capital around the world. Where to look in the world? Luxembourg and Dubai and Switzerland are two of the best markets in the world. I loved what he spoke about with the smart contract, and I loved the way he even used Coca-Cola as a good example in terms of that overall process. In terms of the risks, it came down to the fundamentals. It's why this course is so important, because technology is an enabler. It doesn't change the fundamentals in terms of that process and what you're looking at, basically. And that's why I said, as long as it has a business case, that's the most important thing in terms of. And then he spoke about what is the future and where the world's going over the next 10 years. And I did find it really interesting that he sees it happening not in the first 5 years, but in the next 10 years. And so, don't, like me in 2017 and Jaco, we thought things were going to change overnight, and we learned a hard lesson. Things take time in terms of this overall process. But I do love where they're going with the level 2. And I think there's a huge amount of work that Jaco and Maurice and myself and their team and our team need to look at in terms of that overall thing. And then to finish off, what I loved was what he was talking about with smart contracts and the Oracle and satellites and what can happen with regards to, the whole carbon credits, and even what they said with the virtual nation builders and the Kari.org. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all tonight with regards to fractionalization, the future of investing. Maurice is an incredible gentleman. I've worked with him, like I said to you, since 2009. I can't speak more highly of him. And it's a good example of the level of depth that I've been through with the partners through my life, and why we've put together this wealthgoingglobal.com course, because we want people to get access to the right information and the right partners. I always say it's the golden rule: the right information and the right partners. I could have brought you any monkey tonight to teach you about regulation. Everyone claims to know what they're talking about, whereas Maurice is the right partner with the right information. And it's a classic example of what we're talking about. And so thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this masterclass, share it with your friends. We will make the recording available. And next week, we have Garth Wellman talking about family offices. Now, the wealthiest people in the world have access to family offices. You and I, most of us, don't have access to family offices, but that's changing with technology. And so come along next week and learn about the value of a family office and how you too can get access to it. And Vanessa, thanks for the kind words. And a little heads up. We have a big challenge coming up at the end of October. And so we have a 5-day diversification 5.0 challenge from the 22nd, 23rd of October to the 28th of October. And so watch the space. Watch your emails, because we are taking it to the next level in terms of it. And I want to leave you with the formula. If you want globally diversified passive income, it's about diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And as Nelson Mandela said, money won't create success. The freedom to make it will. Thanks very much. There are my details, both my email and my WhatsApp. Please do not email me. I don't read my emails, but you can WhatsApp me in terms of the process. And to remind you, that's the value of the course. Now that we've finished the course and the amount of feedback we've had from people, it's probably worth 2 or 3 times that. But the fact that we're giving people access for $397, I believe, is testament to our values which is that we want to provide access to everyone. We want to democratize access to knowledge and access to investment so that we can all invest like the top 1%. Good night. Thank you, and see you on the next masterclass. Cheers.